As we move on, I have a horrifying clip for you. It was released by Hamas. You have to see it for yourself.
From this moment, we announce that for every attack towards our people who are safe in their homes, without previous warning, unfortunately, we will have to execute one of the civilian enemy captives that we have hostage. And we will be forced to broadcast this in video and audio. We announce this decision and we hold the responsibility in front of the whole world to the Zionist enemy and its leadership. They are responsible for this decision.
This is how ugly the situation has become. For every attack, one civilian hostage will be killed. That is what Hamas has threatened. What looked very unlikely till yesterday has now become the reality of today. Hamas has threatened to kill hostages. It is treating them like pawns, like insurance against attacks. For every attack from Israel, it says it will kill a hostage and broadcast it. Yes, it will broadcast it with video and audio. Let me remind you, at least 150 Israelis have been taken hostage by Hamas. And it's not just the Israelis. People of 6 to 8 other nationalities have also been kidnapped. This includes 2 Mexicans, 3 Brazilians, at least 1 student from Nepal and at least 1 British national. Reports say German citizens have also been kidnapped along with at least 11 Thai nationals. There are also reports of French and Canadian hostages. You see, Israel is currently in an unprecedented hostage crisis. And what is Prime Minister Netanyahu going to do about it? The mood on ground is of anger. There is a rising demand for justice and revenge. Netanyahu has threatened Hamas that Israel is just getting started. He has called up 300,000 reservists and counting. This has happened before, but never in a span of just 2 days. Everything is pointing at a ground offensive. But given the hostage crisis, can Israel afford to do that? A ground offensive is risky. Hundreds of hostages are spread across just 25 miles of land in Palestine. Wherever an airstrike will land, it is likely to hit an innocent civilian. But then again, civilians have become just collateral damage in this war. There are no barriers on butchering innocent lives from both sides. Meanwhile, Qatar is in talks with Hamas for a prisoner swap. The mediators are negotiating freedom of Israeli women and children. In exchange, they are offering to release 36 Palestinian women and children from both Israeli prisons. So, will Netanyahu consider doing the same? Will it cut a deal with Hamas to rescue its hostages? We at this point will just pray for their safe return. Now, for more analysis, we are now being joined by Jonah Blank, who is a senior political scientist at RAND from Washington, D.C. He is also the former foreign policy advisor to President Joe Biden. Jonah, welcome to WION.
Thank you for having me.
I want your assessment of this ongoing war. What happened? How did no one see this coming? How did no one see Hamas coming?
Well, that is a question that no one has answered satisfactorily yet. Former top generals in the Israeli military and former top officials of the Israeli intelligence services have been warning for months that the ongoing political crisis in Israel, before any of the war in Gaza, was weakening Israel's defensive posture. We don't know yet whether that was directly responsible for this clear intelligence failure, but I don't think anyone can say that that Israel has in any way prepared for an attack that was very, very coordinated and very, very sophisticated and tremendously tragic and absolutely inexcusable.
Now let's talk about the hostage crisis, unprecedented hostage crisis for Israel. Negotiations are on to release Israeli hostages, as we are given to understand, but a big threat, an ominous threat rather, coming from Hamas, which is terrifying. When will these hostages return safely, in your assessment?
Well, we all hope that they will return safely as soon as possible, but let's not undersell the real threat that we see right here. Hamas, as we've seen in the past few days and in the decade and a half earlier, we've seen that Hamas is very willing to engage in horrific acts to achieve what it considers to be its aims. Now, its aims have never really succeeded in advancing the cause of safety and peace for the Palestinian people, let alone the people of Gaza. Will they actually start executing hostages? They may, and Israel is very aware of it and has dealt with this before. But let's be aware, we've seen horrific bloodshed on both sides, and we're going to see a lot more on both sides before this is over.
Right, Jonah, I'm just going to repeat your statement. You're saying that Hamas at this point is very willing to commit to these horrific acts. I think another obvious question that everybody is asking is who funds Hamas? Where is it getting its weaponry from?
Well, we know that Hamas has historically been supported by Iran, in addition to other outside players, but most noteworthy Iran. We've heard a lot of reporting about Iran's support for this particular action. As far as I know, we don't have actual proof of it yet, but it would be naive to think that Iran was not involved in the planning or at least provision of material support for it.
Right. My final question, Jonah, do you see any immediate hope of a ceasefire?
Sadly, I don't. In my view, Israel has very little option other than to take on Hamas and to respond militarily. And as we've seen before in so many places in so many countries, a committed terrorist group holding hostages is a nightmare situation.
Right, Jonah, thank you so much for all your analysis. Thanks for joining us on Gravitas tonight.
Thank you for having me.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.